Welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. This is a bonus episode, so if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to. But this
That's
is
like
about...
the tamest intro I've ever seen you give. Like the last time I was on the show, you started, I'd be like, "Fuck everybody, Game Theory Podcast." I was like, "Holy shit, man!"
He had gone mad with power at that point. We've teamed.
Yeah, I was just drunk with my broadcasting. Yeah, we're talking about the Chrono Trigger episode, or the Chrono Trigger Game Club, and yeah. So you guys made it through the completion, the point of Azala.
I haven't quite yet,
I did.
but I did it back in the day.
That's what counts. So Azala, first of all, you know that big dinosaur guy, Nibble or whatever, or Nibel, is like, I didn't realize that the lightning. That was it. Yeah, it took me a while to realize the lightning, brought down his defenses. I was like, this motherfucker's so tough.
How did you not? Every dinosaur in that level had that same mechanic.
Yeah, I don't know. I looked at him and I was like, okay, game mode, look for patterns. And so I just started trying things, and he was whipping my ass. So I was just like healing myself and like trying to bomb and all these other things. And finally, I don't know why, but like, just that weird. I've been running the game on muscle memory, so I did a bunch of dumb shit. But this one, that one didn't kick in until like all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, I remember. Like the Volt Bite or whatever. I used that a ton.
Yeah. So we have JT on the show this time. One of our
Yeah. That's one of the beautiful things about Chrono Trigger is, like, sure, it was innovative. It did a lot of new stuff, like having the enemies there instead of the random encounters that Final Fantasy had made popular. But like, it wasn't so bent on being innovative that it tried to fix what wasn't broken, like the elemental weaknesses and all the other classic aspects of RPGs. Still there.
Very JRPG. So this section started off with freaking the Village of Magic. So we end up in the Mystic Village, or the Fiend Village in my case.
That was cool.
Okay, and maybe I'm broken from playing D&D so much as a kid, but I walked in the village and I saw that statue of Magus, and I'm like, oh, this is important. And I'm like running around everywhere clicking A, and like, why am I here? Why am I here? What am I missing?
Yeah.
What secret thing is in this room? I make a search check. What do I get? 3. I search again. What do I get? 7. I search again. What do I get? 4. I'm going to keep searching until I roll a 20. You better just tell me what's here.
God, D&D. All of its glory had some really obvious glaring flaws like that. Okay, I search again. There's literally nothing in the rulebook that says you can't do that for this edition, so I guess you do.
Have you guys ever done an episode on the Star Wars tabletop?
Yeah, we did actually when we all played it at Jeremiah's house with Tim and Amy.
That dice system is freaking awesome. I cannot get enough of that.
Yeah,
It's
the
fun.
success failure dice.
It's great for a narrative, but
So you arrive in the Mystics / Fiends. They are pretty racist. I had to murder a lot of shopkeepers to get them to sell things to me. And then just to spite me, they're like, "Yeah, it's a potion, 5,000 gold."
yeah, what a jerk. Oh man, that guy. And then like that. Oh man, yeah, he calls in like his bouncer or something to fight you.
Yeah.
Just. Well, I guess it should go without saying that, if you're going to be in your enemy territory trying to buy weapons to kill them, maybe it's going to be expensive. So, I don't know. I just love the quirky little things of this game, the weird stuff like that. Or for some reason, this always gets me. You know those 2 little imps that are kicking that ball guy around in the woods the whole time?
Yeah.
Every time I run by that, I'm like, oh, you guys.
I can't bring myself to fight them. Every time I walk past them, I'm like, oh, they're just there kicking a ball around. Like, why would I fight them? I have no reason to do that. Not all
I
imps are
tried
bad,
to
probably.
intervene to help the little roly-poly, and then I ended up murdering it. So
Yeah, that's what I did too. I thought they were picking on it.
for American foreign policy.
Here, we'll help. Oh, fuck me? Oh, okay. That's fine.
Now you're all dead.
Yeah.
So
Something else I like about this game is you get out of the Mystic Village, you go to Melchior's house, you go to the cave, and inside the cave, at the end, there's the thing that only magic can hurt. And that battle is fucking hard. Like,
Which one?
the one against the monster in the cave that only
Hector.
magic can hurt.
Hector.
the big boss, the big blue boss with the big claws, and he's all like,
Oh, yeah.
"Holy magic hurts me."
And I posted an image.
God, he
to
said
Atheist
that.
Gamers. Like,
Apparently, there's some people that don't pick that up quick.
I'm gonna hold, and I always do this. Like, this meme speaks to me. It was like, I'm gonna hold on to this potion in case I need it later. Finish the game with 600 potions. Like,
Yeah,
Chrono
I'm
Trigger
already
is
doing
not
that.
letting me do that. Like, every fight, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die. Like, burn or revive. Only got 2 left. Like, and then we've got 40 hours of gameplay. Doesn't matter. Use another one.
Keep coming back to life.
That's weird. I haven't actually used many of mine. For some reason, like I've my party at least has a lot of sustain. I tend to go with that party with well, even for a while I was doing Frog and Marley and myself. So that has so much sustain. He's got that heal that heals everyone. Then they got Aura Whirl. So like no matter what happens, I get nuked. When Magus nuked me, I was like, go fuck yourself, and then I just healed in that Aura World and then just go to town.
Okay, hey, actual question. Do you guys rename the characters?
Nah, keep it classic. Makes it easier
I
to
always
talk
do,
about.
except this time so I can remember the names. But I did rename Marley to Amy because that's Amy.
Aww.
And and myself was always solo, but this time I did Chrono. I kept it Chrono.
That she is,
Kept it
yeah,
real.
she is Amy. That's.
What about you?
For what it's worth, Jeb, in my game, you're Robo. David, you're gonna be Magus. Tim is Frog.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh man, Robo, that guy is so silly.
I love Robo. It's one of my favorite songs in the game.
The Rickroll song?
The Rickroll song, yeah.
Yeah, every time I hear that, I can't help but smile. It's just so happy.
Every time he does a laser dance, I hope you think of me. Animation looks so dumb. He's like just puts his hands out like a starfish and then just flies around in a circle.
Robo's got this depressing backstory. For the first several encounters with him, like he just gets shit on, but his theme is so happy.
He's a very cheerful robot.
Oh
so then you go back to the Middle Ages, and we actually get involved in the war between the mystics and the humans, and we learn more about Magus. And what's interesting about the Middle Ages to me is if you look at medieval theology, medieval science, medieval philosophy, it's very dualistic, right? Mm-hmm. It's all about like good versus evil, God and the devil, us versus them, and that's kind of how the Middle Ages is. It's very dialectic. You've got the hero who represents the hopes of the people, and then Magus, who represents, just pure evil. And it's not very nuanced, although you later find out that there's more going on. But just when you're in there, it's a very classic kind of legend kind of motif, right? Tristan, Roland, Lancelot. It's very like the hero goes off to slay the villain. He's an evil wizard. He's a heroic knight. Like, it's just the classic cliche that you expect from like a first D&D campaign that someone writes, or a lot of medieval legend. And so the game kind of replicates that in the way it presents this war.
Now, I want to get your reaction to something, David, because like you're right. In the case of Magus, it seems like he's this cliche villain, but then you later find out he's not, and it's a really good reveal, and I like it. It's a great part of the story. But elsewhere in it, like Dalton and people like that, you do have these villains who like don't seem to be good people in extenuating circumstances that cause them to behave in ways that other people perceive as evil, like in real life. Like there's just these other people who are just evil for the sake of evil, and that annoys the shit out of me. Do you get that from some of the places in this game?
Yeah, I love a villain that you can get into their head and like understand why they're doing what they're doing. But in this case, I don't know if it's that they're just pure evil or we just don't get to find out their story. Because remember, at this point in the game, all we know about Magus is he's a real bastard who's summoning Lavos.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah. Well, is that true? At the very end of this section, you kind of find out that that's not true, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's
you get a hint.
And there's some imagery here going on too. When we go back to the medieval kind of alchemy thing, we have fire and water always opposed, and Magus's lair is all about fire. There's blue flames popping up everywhere as you approach this thing. There's fire on the torches. It's all he's summoning a being made of fire, and opposing him is the hero Frog with water. Right? He's an amphibian. Water also tends to symbolize death and like transition. So like the river Styx, or burying somebody, like the Vikings would put you on a boat and sail you away. So water kind of has this death and life image too. So there's this weird kind of elemental conflict almost between Frog and Magus that kind of just clashes at the end. And you assume Frog is the hero there, but in some ways Magus is almost a tragic hero or a tragic figure, because it all comes down to a misunderstanding. Like when you arrive, he says the black wind begins to howl, like symbolizing that something just went wrong. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. And anytime you talk about wind, you're talking about something spiritual, right? Like the breath of life. So like this black twisted version of spirit just happened.
Damn, son.
Oh, I thought he was like a shadow dude because he uses shadow magic.
He does. And how was that fight for everybody? I remember that being a lot harder the first time I played it.
That was so easy, yeah. What the hell? That one is like, that was muscle memory because like I'm playing, and of course, I queue up all these actions. I'm like, Q, and then I hit him, and then he goes, oh yeah? Well, fuck all of you guys, and hits me with some big spell. And then here comes Frog. He hits him with something. He does it again, changes elements again, and then stupid Marley's like, meow, and shoots her little like crossbow and
Sorry,
does like
you mean
20
stupid
damage.
Amy.
Stupid Amy, yeah, shoots her little crossbow and then and then he does it again. So my party got nuked like 4 times before I had a chance to heal, and I was like, oh yeah, you hit him with those things. I kind of forgot.
He changes his defenses, and you have to lower his magic defense with the mass immune.
Which is
There's
cool.
something I love about, like, for as much as George R.R. Martin annoys me with Game of Thrones and killing all my favorite characters, like there's no clear good and bad guys in that. There's just people and circumstances that dictate how they view the world, and I love that it's not black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and I think they did that really well with Magus.
Yeah, what the hell? This game was incredibly progressive for its time, because there's also, remember Isla, who's in a time of cavemen is the kind of the
village
badass
leader.
of the village. Yeah, she's the village leader. And there's an elder, but he's an advisor, obviously.
It's a kind of a matriarchy, right? Like the second the wife figure is kind of Kino. He keeps getting himself kidnapped and in trouble, and Isla goes off to rescue him. And she's your typical like fighter stats. She's got the high strength, high attack, low magic. Like if you were just looking at her numbers, you would think she was a male character just from the tropes of Japanese RPGs. But in fact, they invert that.
And she's begging to be put that berserker ring on her. So I mean, she's kind of a barbarian berserker, female, which is at the time unheard of.
Now this game, this chapter of the game, like going back a little bit to where you're trying to find the Dreamstone, I definitely spent way too many hours here because I was looking in the DS version. There's a bestiary that tells you what you can steal from monsters when you beat them, and so I was looking through that and I was like, I've never seen this gear before. Like I just missed it in my previous playthroughs because I just never had charm by that point. So I spent like a good 2 or 3 hours just in that stupid hunting grounds, just like leveling up, trying to get charm so I could steal all that stuff. That stuff is good. Like I still haven't like upgraded my gear from that point. Like I'm still using that stuff. It's so good.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Huh. Man, now I kind of want to get a DS emulator and play that version.
Are you playing on the Super Nintendo version?
Yeah.
Yeah,
classic.
me too.
The DS one also has like the anime cutscenes in between. So when you first meet Isla, she's like jumping down, like jumping off of a pterodactyl and just kicking all these reptiles around. It's very Dragon Ball Z looking.
Oh, Isla. I like her.
But in the DS version, there's an extra dungeon at the end that kind of bridges Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, right?
There is. Yeah, and I've never played it. I'm looking forward to that.
God damn it! I should start over.
So the cool thing too, so you go back in the prehistoric time, and this is a very like simpler time, right? Like when you talk to Isla, she has simple grammar structure. She's like, "You good, we friends," but she's also all about like the simpler pleasures of life, like the pre-civilization, like eating, drinking, dancing. She's like, "Yummy frog for Isla to eat." Like she's just all about like her belly, sex, and partying, because that's just like our basic human impulses. And then you contrast that to the reptiles, who are strangely the more advanced species, right? They're all about technology. Like Azala's like, how did the apes create something this advanced when they see the time key?
Yeah, so they're in a castle.
Yeah, they're in a castle.
Like doors
just,
and switches.
Huts.
Yeah.
And so it's this contrast between civilization represented by the dinosaurs and primitive, like pre-civilized brutish man, which is a weird twist. Like you usually think of the mammals as the more advanced and the dinosaurs as the brutes, but they kind of invert that in this game.
It's pretty hilarious, especially because oops. Okay. Sorry, I got a message. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
Hey,
because
don't let the podcast slow you down. Like, you just go be social, buddy. Wait. Take your time.
It's also pretty hilarious because it's like an alternative sort of like hilarious like what if history if like reptiles are actually like supposed to be the right ones and and us stupid humans just like eked out a win somehow through like a time traveler.
Yeah, we just kind of rewrote the history. And one of the bonus endings kind of plays off that, right? Where you go back and everyone's a reptile.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Yeah, forgot about that.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But that was fun.
How many endings were there to this game?
What's that?
How many endings were there to this game? And didn't the DS add another one?
13, I think. 13 or 14.
And the DS added another ending, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't. This will be my first time getting to the end of it. I've been avoiding walkthroughs, so I'll have to see if I can find that one.
Kino. Oh man,
freaking Kino.
Kino, like the entire time you're just like, come on, get your shit together. Yeah, he's definitely the Princess Peach of that storyline.
Okay, so a lot of people had complaints about the the Reptite Castle. And in
Oh,
fact,
God,
let me read one of the comments we got, because I think he was spot on when he was describing it. Let's see. So this is Brian from the Facebook group, and he says, Tyranno Lair was super annoying to me. For some reason, I was having trouble with the push button opening the door's T-Rex skulls, namely falling through pits and then climbing back up and forgetting which buttons had been pushed. Not a huge deal in a vacuum, except I was kind of rushing, and this was a bad place to have to backtrack and re-explore. One of the things I really like about Chrono Trigger is that you can avoid most random encounters by simply not walking up to the monsters that you can clearly see. They broke that pattern hard in Tyranno Lair. Surprise enemies just before or after walking through certain doors, and some doors even had 2 encounters attached to them. I ended up fighting some of these stupid encounters 3 to 4 times. It was killing the pacing for me, which is a shame, because up until now I think the game's been really good at getting the pacing right. Just a badly designed dungeon and an otherwise great game.
Yeah, like I like that you can walk past the enemies. Like there's no random encounters. If you see someone you don't want to fight, you generally don't have to fight them. But at the same time, in order to be strong enough to conquer later dungeons, the fights aren't really optional. You got to go fight people. It's like I feel like I'm weaker right now than I should be, and so I worry about getting to the Tyranno Lair with all these mandatory fights, because I think I'm gonna be weaker than I ought to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what level is everyone at this point?
26, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm 25.
I tried, whenever I was early 20s, I tried to go fight Specchio again in his new form. Nope, don't do that. He skills you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back soon.
But at least he's happy about it.
Yeah, he's a jolly kid.
He's like, I'm the god of war, and I'm just fucking around. I don't know why he's so jolly.
I know. It looks like an ogre at this point for me.
But I agree with that Tyranno Lair. That was fucking annoying. This is the one time I broke my rule and went to a walkthrough, because I was so you get to that room where there's like invisible teleporters. Fuck that room. That was so annoying. And it's like, oh, that's okay. There's just a bunch of pots in here. I bet there's something amazing in them. And of course there is. It was like a Mesomale and that Triceratop things you put on your head or whatever.
Yeah.
That gives you like super HP. Gear was so good. So yeah, I just could not help. Kept getting randomly spawned around, or like enemies, and oh god, it was so annoying. Or the one where you hit the wrong switch, and then you fall down and then have to walk and fight these 2 groups of annoying enemies. Oh, and just the enemies are just so annoying. You hit them and they like maybe blow up on their friends or you don't know. Just way too much like, ugh, it was just a bad combination of bad things.
I did like those encounters with the guys that shoot lava at you, because whoever hits them, they'll shoot lava at like the other party. So it becomes this game of you and the Reptites both beating up on that poor guy while he shoots lava at everybody. It was pretty hilarious. But I'm at the point, because I spent so much time getting my tech points up so I could charm things, like I'm at the point where I have a lot of multi-target techs, so all those encounters were so fast for me. I was like, lightning 2, next, lightning 2, next, lightning 2, next. Or Magus's castle, I had Frog and Marley do their ice water. Just wipes out the whole encounter every time.
Yeah, but they also have those enemies, and there's a couple places that are really heavy on them, where every time you hit them, they damage you back, or they do some mechanic. It's just so annoying. But
something that's not annoying though, like your techs cost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, there's no reason to have like millions of magic points and everything costs thousands. Like, it can be done with 1 and 2 and 3 costs.
I know. We talked about this last week. This is the one RPG where I don't feel like I'm being extravagant when I actually use my magic spells instead of just attacking every time. Like, I actually feel like I can afford to use my abilities.
Yep. Yeah, it should not be punishing to use one of the coolest things. I mean, like humans, we can swing a sword if we want. I can go pretend, get a PVC pipe and like swing it around or something and feel awesome. Maybe, I don't know if you feel awesome doing that. The point is, you can do it. But we never get to cast a magic spell, so like it shouldn't be that like damning to do it. And as long as it works in the mechanics, where some enemies just magic doesn't do that much, so you really don't want to use magic. But yeah, anything to break up the clicking A over and over and over for physical attacks, which is what you want to do, because it's easier to get tonics than it is at ethers. So
yeah,
this is a good thing, a good decision.
Yeah, I always felt like I have just enough MP to get me to the next save point.
And I love how it was lightning that effed with the dinosaurs, because I don't know, it's terrifying, I guess. Like lightning from the sky probably scared cavemen, so it just makes sense.
I love that one of the double techniques with Chrono and Isla is like, you hit her with lightning and she's like, fuck yeah, I love being electrocuted, and then she goes and bites someone.
Yeah. How does that not hurt her?
She's such a badass. She's like, yes, I love it. Mammals love lightning in this world.
Bring the pain.
Why is she wearing a tail though? And before you answer that, okay, some people are like, well, that's maybe she just wants to look, wear like the skins of her enemies. I'm like, no, that makes sense. Except that the tail moves. Like when she bends over, it sticks up in the air like a cat.
Or when she's surprised and it does like the little puffy fur thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fun. And her run animation, she goes on all fours.
Yeah, which is awesome.
So what do you think of freaking Tata?
Poser? Jesus. What an asshole. Like, that guy had his hero medal the whole time.
It's cool because that's kind of how legends start, right? Like when you're away from his village, everyone talks about this legendary hero, and then the closer you get to his hometown, like people are more and more skeptical. When you get to his hometown, they're like, that little punk, there's no way he's a hero. He's a jerk. Yeah. Like he's a little rascal. It reminds me of kind of like a Jesus or a Life of Brian kind of thing, where you're just like, no, I'm not anything special, and then you get like time and distance, and it's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, although in the Bible it says that too. Like it just randomly says, "Oh, and he couldn't do any miracles in this town because that's his hometown." Anyway, and
no
just totally passed
his hometown.
Yeah, I was like, "What the?" Or no, when Jesus, he couldn't do any miracles, and I was like, "Couldn't?" Like that always tripped me up. So,
couldn't?
Yeah. Anyway, very interesting.
So in the Super Nintendo version, is it pretty clear that what they're drinking is alcohol at that party?
Yeah.
Because in the translation, I was on they're like, fire water, make feel funny, good times. And I'm like, oh. When I was a kid, I had no idea. I thought it was just like a special spicy soup that made you, because they were just like, oh, and they'd pass out. I'm like, man, that's some spicy soup. I had no idea that was alcohol.
That's what it is in the SNES. It's a peo soup or something like that.
Yeah, in this translation, it's clearly alcohol. Like, they don't call it soup.
Thank goodness. It's so ridiculous. And why would you sleep so long afterwards? They're like, oh, we ate too much. My stomach feels funny. And I was like,
Yeah, well, they changed that in the translation I'm using. Instead of my stomach feels funny, it's like, my head hurts. What did we drink last night? And I was like, oh,
there we go.
The next translation will be like, I have herpes. How did that happen?
And a lot of this game, a lot of 90s games would like censor the shit out of the North American translation. If you play the Japanese version, it's totally more adult. But one thing I was surprised in the SNES version is they did not censor Flea. She's like the only transgender character that made it to America.
Yeah. Yeah, he even say like, "What? Wait, are you a man or a woman?" After he introduces himself as a he, then he goes, "Man, woman, it doesn't matter. I have power, and power is sexy." And then he kisses at Chrono, and Chrono's like, "Oh shit, yeah!" And he just attacks his friends.
It's very progressive. Like they usually there's a character in Final Fight who's Poison, who in the Japanese version she was like a transvestite, but in the American one they're like, yeah, it's just a girl, don't worry about it. Or Birdo, remember the old Super Mario 2 boss? She was it was like, this is a dinosaur, thinks she's a girl, but she's not. And then later on they're like, no, it's Yoshi's girlfriend. But this one they actually left it there, which is I thought was really progressive, especially for a game that already had like 3 very differing like female archetypes. Like in this post Gamergate society, I guess I'm more sensitive to that kind of stuff. But I don't know, I thought it was cool.
Yep. Good on them.
Well, that's the thing. Like nobody balked at that when we were kids. Even in like JRPGs, Japan is not known for its progressive female culture. So, in general. So the fact that like that the game's coming out of there, nobody like balked at that. I think it's overinflated. I think that they're like, there's this rampant problem. I was like, I don't think so. Chrono Trigger is widely known as the best RPG of all time, and everybody says it. Or FF6, depending. But everybody talks about them as the top 2.
Great female characters.
Yeah, and no one, I've not heard one person ever mention, even on an internet forum where people are just cancer, and ever be like, yeah, if they would have just changed Ayla to a man, because it's just not believable. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah. But also good on, like, it goes to show, like, kids don't give a shit about that, like, until they're told to give a shit.
Right.
None of us gave a shit, and we were all religious.
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, cool, because I was like, oh, she or he is a shapeshifter. He was a bat for most of that level, so I don't care what gender he appears as. Like, whatever, you're a magic shapeshifter. That's your thing.
Yeah, I didn't think about anything about it either. I played the game and I was like, oh, it's a guy, it's a girl. Oh, it doesn't matter. I just like started fighting.
Either way, I'm killing it.
Interesting character, and then I just fought. But
yeah, so a lot of people, Masamune was the first boss battle to give people trouble. What do you guys think of that fight?
Haven't got there yet.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, when he combines? Yeah, that got tough quick.
Wait,
ended
do you
up
have to
having
fight Massa and Mune to get it? Is that what that is?
Right, you fight Massa and Mune separately, then they combine with Massa's courage and Mune's power, however your translation goes.
knowledge or something. Yeah.
And
Right, they are Captain Planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the cool thing is, and this is one of these, like I said last week, this is a game that rewards you for talking to everybody, because as you're fighting it, it's like they're storing up wind energy, and whenever a game announces that, you know you're supposed to do something before shit hits the fan. And you flash back to that random old guy who's like, wind cancels out tornado energy for some reason. There's balance in nature. And I'm like, oh, I'll use my slash attack. That's a wind-based attack.
What?
Yeah, so if you use that, it dissipates his tornado attack. You don't get hit by it. It just says, like, Massamune's tornado energy has dissipated.
Oh, shit. Okay, I just treated it like every other charge attack in the game. I attacked him, I made sure everyone was healed up, attacked him, and got ready to aura whirl.
Oh, yeah. You can actually cancel that out by using the previously useless slash technique.
Yeah, I hate that technique. Although it's awesome whenever the swordsman uses it against you. You guys don't move. So he was wrecking my shit with it.
The other thing on that same level was some random villagers just like, yeah, the ogres are really tough unless you burn their hammers, then they're pussycats, and then you just use you bring Luca, do your flame toss, and suddenly those fights are way easier.
Until you get rid of their hammers, because it took me some experimentation to figure out what it was.
Oh, well, maybe my translation is burn their hammers. Then I changed that on the DS version just to make it clear.
Yeah, because I was trying to target it, and then he just wallops me, and I was like, okay, I gotta do something. So I did lightning, and then unfortunately I had Luca. Did ice, and then I did fire, and then it burned, and I was like, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, that's cool. Burning. So I like that. But then you just kill him.
So we got we were introduced to 2 new character themes, and JT, you actually wrote a paper on Magus's theme. What can you tell us about that?
Yes. Okay, get ready. Okay,
I'm ready.
So nowadays, when you hear music, you get to the end of the piece, and you're like, oh, this is the end of the piece, and you just know it's like that last chord is home, right?
Mm-hmm.
That chord is almost always the tonic chord, and you can build up dissonances and resolve them to paint that chord as home. This is how tonal music is made.
That's why you feel kind of a sense of like anxiety when it lingers and doesn't give you that last chord.
Yeah, like dissonance and resolution. So it wasn't always that way. The major scale that we have today is actually one of the 7 church modes, and is only one of 1.5 that survived. It's called the Ionian mode. But there's also, okay, here we go. I haven't studied music theory in forever. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and then Locrian. Which would all make great D&D character names.
Greetings, I am Mixolydian, the magician.
Ionian survived in the form of our major scale. Aeolian is what's called the natural minor scale. And there's a point to all this. I'm not just using big words to show that I'm educated.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's our thing.
So you've got 2 out of the 7. There's 5 left that really don't get written in anymore because it's really hard to make tonal music with it. In fact, you're specifically not supposed to when you write in those modes. So no one does. And actually, if you want to find them, go back to old NES music. A lot of the composers were just really artistic back then and wanted to push boundaries for themselves and wrote in the modes. But anyway, Magus's theme is the Phrygian mode just run down the scale. That's why it's like think to Magus's theme. Is there ever like a home chord? Do you ever feel like, oh, this is a chord, like, oh, this is the home chord? You never feel
it always feels like you're just like incomplete thoughts each time. Bum 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 bum. It just keeps kind of going.
Yeah. So yeah, in fact, the Phrygian mode, you've got a minor chord on the bottom, and it's like the chord above it is like a major chord that actually is supposed to point to a completely different chord in the tonal system. So it's really hard to paint the E. Or it's in E Phrygian. It's really hard to paint the E as the home bass note. So anyway, it's theoretically interesting. And Yasuo Mitsurita, is that his name?
I don't know.
But he did great, and it's spectacular.
Yeah, and we're getting a little bit of air popping on your mic whenever you're talking. I don't know if that's what that is, but it's like but it doesn't matter. That's really interesting. So it was designed to be disquieting. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that song is specifically designed to not give you resolution. You're supposed to feel off balance with that song.
Huh. Well, that's cool. Yeah, it definitely works, man. And Frog's theme, right when they kicked up, I was like, fuck yes. And Chrono's theme, like those are both do the same thing.
Oh, and man, honestly, Frog's theme is the exact opposite of what they did with Magus' theme. The da 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 da. That's just literally going with a 3-note pattern up the scale. Like it's painting out the key as clearly as it could. It's doing everything it can to establish tonality. Like so you feel a driving force in that song.
Wow, so even musically they're kind of diametrically opposed at this point.
Yeah, they really are, and that's not by accident. That's why in Frog's theme you get the ba da da dun dun dun, and you've got this huge chord that feels like, oh, this is resolved. This is home right here.
Yeah, man, that's cool. I also like the fact that like you show up in a different part of time and there's already an antithesis or a rivalry because like a lot of games, you know, you'll do if you do time traveling or you show up in any scene or any setting, you end up being that hero. But this one, like, Frog is the guy, and then like you have to help him get there. And there's actually like a whole ordeal. I forgot how annoying it was just to get Frog on your team. This time when I was playing through, maybe it's because I played through before so many times and it was an old hat. But I was like, come on, Frog, you freaking teenager, what's wrong with you? You get some emotional stability. Your people need you. I just want. Why this is in the scenes just to cut like a film down. They would just shake him and go, "Get your shit together, Frog," and slap him, and he'd be fine.
You know, that's actually something I like about Chrono Trigger. Take a great RPG, one of the first great RPGs for the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy IV. Like, even though each character has their own shit going on, their own story, and they did great with that. Everybody's story is solid. You know, Tella, Cecil, Rydia, Rosa, everybody. You still get the impression that Cecil is the hero, and everybody's following him. Like, he's the leader. We're all following along.
Right.
And, like, in this game, even though, like, you get to choose what happens in some senses. Like I never get the impression that it's all about Chrono and everybody else is just along for the ride. Like like the team is the hero, not just Chrono.
And that's one cool thing about the silent protagonist is the other characters react to his silence in ways that reveal their own interests. So it sort of necessitates more of an ensemble cast.
Huh. Yeah, that's true. It's at no point. In fact, most of the time I feel like it's about everybody else. I feel it has very little to do with Chrono. Like the only real thing he does that's like meaningful is grab the hero's or the pendant, the original pendant, and then jump in that, you know, start kind of the whole tale after Luca accidentally swallows the princess up. But past Chrono's that it's like you're just helping out Nadia. Sorry, go ahead.
He exists
so
just as a way of putting the I will punch everyone in the face. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I'm afraid to trap.
It'll be safe.
He's just there to give the player a chance to interact with the story. He's not there to be a hero in his own right, necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, and the only thing anybody ever says about him, they kind of make fun of him. They kind of make fun of his hair. Like, hey, you with crazy... What do they say? What does he say? With your...
The spiky hair, with the crazy hair.
Yeah, crazy spiky hair, something like that.
Oh, and here's another pitch for the DS version, JT. When you get to the part where Frog opens that cave with the Masamune, there's this awesome cutscene where he's like walking through and the wind sweeping through the grass, and Frog's music comes on, but it's like a full orchestration symphony version. Oh. He just like pulls up the sword and does this total overdramatic like anime angles and stuff as he like leaps in the air and like this big lightning strikes, and it's just amazing. In the background,
so good. The music is so good.
It is, without a doubt, my favorite soundtrack from the Super Nintendo.
Even more than Final Fantasy VI?
Yeah. Well, it's tough. I like it. I like that both games give each character their own theme. I like the way Final Fantasy VI sort of creates a medley of all the themes together as it's resolving everyone's stories. I thought that was really cool. But I don't know. I think maybe it's because I played Chrono Trigger more. Like that was the last great game on the Super Nintendo before the N64 came out. So it's kind of like the note I ended the Super Nintendo on.
I was actually listening to some of the music in preparation for doing this, talking about music on this episode, and I noticed in a lot of the songs they use a leitmotif with Chrono's theme, even from the very beginning when the clock melds into the pattern. You get the first few chords of Chrono's theme, and you hear it in Magus's theme. You hear it. Oh God, I can't remember where, but you hear it in a lot of the different themes. But they change the color of the chords around it to where they disguise it really well, kind of like John Williams did with Anakin's theme with the Imperial March. Like that's everywhere, so that they do kind of meld them together throughout it.
And that kind of goes back to the
not
idea
an accident.
Yeah, it goes back to Chrono being the silent protagonist that everybody else reacts to and kind of imposes their motivations onto how they treat his silence.
Hmm. That's interesting.
So,
Well,
do you still kind of tear up a little bit when you hear the sad theme that plays during the Cyrus flashback?
oh,
Yeah.
man.
I don't know about tearing up, but like it does move me.
Yeah,
It really does. And it moves me in ways that books don't. Like, yeah, I like reading as much as the next person, but video games, like good games like this that are well designed, they immerse me and I feel for them. Like, I really feel for the characters, and it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it makes me very morally conflicted too, because we won't spoil it because not everyone's gotten this far yet. But there comes a choice you have to make where you feel like you're betraying Frog if you don't make a certain choice. But on the other hand, like it could go either way. Like it's not a black and white decision.
Hmm. Oh, you mean coming up?
I appreciate that in games. Like, I tend to like linear games like Chrono Trigger, where you're progressing through the story and it's very, very straightforward. But at the same time, I don't want to be so linear that the choices I make are just so fucking easy.
Right.
And I don't want to spoil the second fight with Magus, but for the people who are playing through the first time, I'm sure there's going to be some disappointed people who read walkthroughs later.
Yes. So that was the reptite section was always one of my least favorite parts of the game, probably because of the kind of the pacing just falls apart in the Tyranno layer. But now we're at my favorite part in the game. I always love this next chapter coming up.
Which is
the Kingdom of Zeal. The music,
yes.
the ambiance, like the story, like the plot gets way more complex coming up.
Yeah.
So those of you who are getting caught up, like you have something to look forward to here because it gets really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's so weird because in the Kingdom of Zeal, I feel like the game gets blown wide open with all these new plot points, but it still resolves enough of what's going on that I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm making progress.
Yeah, like the game gets more depth, but not necessarily more complicated.
Yeah.
Plus, oh man, the epoch. I'll just say that.
Okay, the epoch from Chrono Trigger or the giant whale from Final Fantasy IV?
The epoch. Epoch is sleek. It's sleek and sexy.
Oh man, but the whale had the greatest theme ever for a vehicle.
I like the epoch theme too.
That's true. The epoch theme is pretty good.
You could circumnavigate the globe in about like 12 seconds.
That's pretty cool. You can't do that on a whale.
You can't do that on a whale.
It's not an actual whale, it's just the name of it, like the big whale or something, whatever they called it.
With the red wings.
God, that game was so good. That game was so good. There's so many good RPGs from that era.
It's a golden age.
What happened, man?
What did happen?
I don't know. Like, when was the last really good RPG?
Bravely Default was the last one I played, but that was like a retro style throwback.
Like, when was the last like RPG that was just earth-shattering? Like those were.
Like, did you see they announced that they're re-releasing the first Earthbound?
No.
Yeah,
Earthbound. But yes, I'm happy.
Earthbound Beginnings or Earthbound Origins or something.
Beginnings, yeah. That should be fun.
Okay, would you consider Tomb Raider an RPG?
No. Even though you level up and progress, it doesn't. Well, not a JRPG at least. It's more an adventure game.
Okay.
Nino Kuni was pretty good. I never finished it though, but a lot of people loved it. Got great reviews. It was straight up JRPG.
Is Child of Light an RPG?
Yes, it is. That's a really good one.
Okay.
That one's kind of game breaking.
Okay. Yeah. I got it downloaded off the Steam Summer Sale, so maybe I'll try it.
Oh man, you've got to try it. I want to hear what you think about it too, because it's got great music. It's a cool experience, and good story. And it's not at all clear like exactly what the story was when it finishes. So like me and David kind of went back and forth on our thoughts. So I want to hear what you think too.
Okay. Have you guys done like an episode just dedicated to RPGs?
We did last summer. Mm-hmm. It was right after your bachelor party because we opened it up with telling the zombie story.
Hey, it's time for another one then. Like, I'll talk about RPGs and I'll listen to the music from all of them and try to
rank them.
Sound smart.
Yeah. Nice. So, closing thoughts on this chapter of the game. What do you guys think?
So, I guess for me, I think that they still did a great job doing foreshadowing. That's something that this game does amazingly that other games, even other RPGs, don't do great. Like, How many times did you hear about the battle at the bridge before you got there? You know, where you first meet Ozzy. How many times did you hear about Ozzy and see Ozzy before you actually fought him?
Yeah,
Like,
Magus has 3 generals. They keep talking about him.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and then like the ambiance is good too. Like in the castle, Magus's castle. I mean, no matter when you get there, for some reason it's night, even though it was day just outside. No, it's night when you get there. And then like the bats, and then it's creepy. Like you play through the castle, and it's just creepy. Like they're laughing, the kids, and you're like, something's not
the
right.
undead, and they're all saying creepy things to you.
Yeah, yeah. There's obviously a motif there, like you can't believe what you see, and there's supernatural going on because, like, you know, the bat turns into a flea. Then you get the kids, you know, that were illusion, or that were actually illusions. Yeah, you get tons of illusions, tons of like trickery, and then like you step on that save portal, and it's not a save portal, it's a teleporter.
Oh, that's
just
a good point. Like this theme of like you can't trust what appearances, because when you get there, you find out that the whole thing was kind of fruitless because you thought Magus created Lavos, and then you're like, wow, even that was an illusion.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I like the story reveals so far. The Reptite castle is the only place I can really recall where I really feel like the game devs weren't putting in content because the story demanded it. They were putting in content to elongate the gameplay. And that kind of annoyed me. The rest of the game, I don't get that feeling. But this is the only era where I really felt that way.
Yeah.
But it's still good. It's still executed well.
Or the forest maze. So I walk into the forest maze and I'm like, oh shit, I don't remember anything about a forest maze. And there's a reason why, because it's not a fucking maze. Like it's clear you just hold over and you're like, oh, here I am. And I just thought that was remarkably funny because I got concerned. I got lost a few different times. That's something I have to say about Chrono Trigger. That it's a one con. If I put all the pluses, the one con would be like, the fuck am I supposed to do? It's not always clear. They give you a general direction, but then you're like, there was one time where I was at the crossroads of time and I was like, where am I supposed to go? And like, or like, you know, I couldn't remember if it was like, do I want to be in 1000 AD here, 1000 AD there, or 600 AD here? I can't remember which one. Where Frog's at 600, right? And then just those sorts of things.
Yeah, that's what I kind of like about it, though, because a modern game would have a little exclamation point in your menu that says, like, now go do this, now go do that. Yeah. It would mark it on your map. Like, this one really makes you pay attention and kind of figure things out. Like, when you meet Melchior and he's like, man, the material I need to repair this sword, it hasn't been around for thousands of years. And you're like, wait a minute, I think I saw a portal that takes me back to the prehistoric age. I'd never used it. Like, it kind of makes you make those leaps and kind of, you can get stuck, which is the downside, but it's so much more satisfying than, like, just, you know, I'm playing Assassin's Creed right now, and I'm just following markers on a map and just doing what it tells me to do.
It strikes a good balance. It limits your choices enough where you're not just fucking lost all the time in a completely open world, but it also doesn't hold your hand. I love the balance there. You're 100% right, at least in my estimation.
Well, yeah, it's weird that it encourages like exploration during the Protodome, because then I'm like, the sewers, okay, and I did the sewers, and that was nice. I was like, oh, this is a whole side thing I didn't expect, and I got a ton of experience, and I had a cool little story, and got great gear. And I was like, wow, that was very reinforcing. But then you get, David, what are you doing? You're like rocking out over there.
Yeah, I'm just rocking out to your sweet tunes.
Okay. Anyway, but then I did that in the next spot, and it was a little zany because like I walked into like, I don't remember what it was, like a mountain or something, or a mystic cave when I shouldn't have been there. I don't remember what it was, but I went to like 2 or 3 different places before I figured out where to go. I think it's when I'm looking for Frog. They didn't say where he was or something.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 villages down there that you explore, but I don't know. It was like a fact-finding mission for me. It's where I found out a lot about the weaknesses that are going to come up on Denadora Mountain, and you know, Tata being a total dick.
Dude, a jerk. But I guess, you know, it's kind of like you're a victim of circumstance, like everybody else in this story, even the heroes.
You could tell his parents were like the worst. Like his dad's like, I'm the father of the hero. Like he was kind of pressuring him into doing it.
Yeah, and then when he doesn't do it, he's like, I knew you weren't worth anything. And I'm like, you caused this.
You're like, that's one of those kids who shows up with bruises and then says he fell down the stairs.
Oh, God.
That's what Tata means. That's what he said before he pushed him down the stairs. Tata, and that's what they named him, because he's worthless.
So what I really liked about this chapter, my closing thoughts, were it's a contrast between simplicity and complexity, because you get in there and it's just the simplest, most straightforward hero story you can have. They call him the hero, he fights the villain, you're helping, it's light versus darkness, good versus evil, it's just good old-fashioned, simple myth, it's simple legend, it's very medieval. And then the next chapter coming up blows the lid off of that and adds all these shades of complexity to it that suddenly, I don't know, the juxtaposition of black and white versus shades of gray that the game does, I really like this transition point. It kind of pivots.
That's a good point. Yeah. What about you, JJ? What are your closing thoughts?
Oh, and you got my closing statements. This is probably my least favorite part of the game. But even my least favorite part of this game is still well executed, and it's David's right. It gets totally made up for in Zeal, because like up to here, the game does appear very black and white. Once you get to Zeal, like there's all this nuance that gets added, and they resolve just enough to keep you interested. But still leave enough strings dangling to make the rest of the game awesome. Like this is where the game really picks up steam, is in the next chapter.
What's up?
What?
I'm sorry, I have E3 up because I got to keep track on this for the podcast. I think they're redoing Final Fantasy VII. If you go to YouTube right now on the Sony press conference, it's amazing. It's in 3D. It's everybody in the chat saying Final Fantasy VII. It has to be. This is awesome. Okay, well I'll sign off so you guys can watch that. But,
yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Thanks everyone, and go. Oh, it is. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later.
All right. Bye.